we must thank His Excellency the President for working so hard to get this summit in the Gambia and get it successfully. Because what this summit does for agriculture is, one, with all this road, it increases access to our farmers to the markets. They've been struggling to get to major markets. And what this infrastructure will do, it will just make it very easy for them to get to market. But also, as part of the OIC summit, we've identified there is a lot of energy expansion. And for us to go into mechanization, there is serious need for a lot more energy. And I think energy is a major impediment for agricultural mechanization. And this OIC summit has significantly improved our energy source, and that will help. But apart from the roads and the energy, the summit will also expose the Gambia, all the goodies in the Gambia. And this, we think, is going to entice investors, primarily agricultural investors, to take advantage of the summit and take advantage of all the positivity that is going to come out of the summit, to be able to understand that the climate in the Gambia is very peaceful. We have over 500,000 hectares of land that is arable. We have the River Gambia that is fresh water that can be used for irrigation, coupled with 65% of our population is youthful and highly educated, of course, and to a level that is going to be attractive to the investors. But the bottom line is the peaceful tranquility nature of the country. It is going to attract a lot of people in the Gambia, and agriculture will benefit along the way. Of course, when we talk about success for the Ministry of Agriculture, our focus goes to rice, which is the staple food for this country. From 2022 to 2023, we have been able to increase rice production by 27%. And this is a real success, because rice is what every Gambian needs almost every day in their life. But of course, rice aside, we increase our production and productivity in maize, which is about 14%. And also groundnut increased from 56,000 metric tons in 2022 to about 62,000 metric tons, which is about 12% increase. So these are both staple and commercial crops. Their increase, it's a major step in the right direction. But of course, Gambia is not only agriculture, it's both crops and animals. In the last 2022 to 2023, we covered over 95% of every small ruminant in this country was vaccinated at no cost to the farmer. And that aside, we launched about 20 high-powered solar-operated animal drinking points nationwide. And also, in the last 2 years or so, there have been about 30 fattening centers, 30 breeding centers, and about 60 pasture fields, all this in the area of livestock. But of course, in the crops, our success story, apart from increase in productivity, has been what we have done for the farmers. And that is the introduction of high-yield seeds for our farming population. And also, highly discounted fertilizer was made available to our farmers. I think this and a lot more describe what we consider to be success under the government of His Excellency President Adama Barrow. Actually, the ministry has strategies. One of them is our GNIPE 2, that is the Gambia Agricultural Investment Plan, Phase 2. And our agricultural plan focuses mainly on, one, mechanization, because what we have identified is our farmer population is aging. The youth cannot be enticed into agriculture if they continue with the same drudgery. So mechanization strategy is one way we have established to be the fastest way to attract young people, but also to increase productivity. So from 2023 to now, 2023 we distributed over 30 power tillers, we distributed over 4 tractors in CRR, but of course that is coupled with our current fleet of over 50 tractors that are dotted nationwide. But also under mechanization, there is a procurement process already ongoing. We are intending to bring in the excess of over 150 tractors into this country in this year, 2024. I think the tender should be opened very soon, and we think that is going to exponentially expand production and productivity in this country. But apart from mechanization, is the introduction of high-yield seeds. You see, few years ago, the highest you can have per hectare on the rice fields have been about 2 to 2.5 tons. We have, for the past 2 years, introduced high-yield, drought-resistant, flood-resistant rice seeds that now produce in the excess of 7 tons per hectare. So with just the adjustment in seeds, it can triple our productivity. And this we have started since 2023, and we intend to do the same in 2024. But also, apart from the introduction of high-yield seeds, is access to finance for the young people and also the private sector. This is a strategy that we take very seriously, and that is why we have these matching grants. What these matching grants do is to give financial access to young people and private sector. Just in October, November, we disbursed through one of our projects in the excess of $4 million US, which is almost about 260, 270 million Gambian dollars to private sector players in the rice area. But also, apart from access to finance, part of our strategy is disease control. We have a lot of loss, especially for our animals, even in crops, due to disease. So our Department of Agriculture, there's a unit that is plant protection, is highly strengthened, and the Department of Livestock Services is highly strengthened to be able to combat diseases. But the final one I will talk about as a strategy, Ade, and this is very important, is the management of harvest and post-harvest loss. Currently, this country is suffering between 30 to 35% of loss at harvest and post-harvest. So in terms of crops, what we have done is, one, is to build drying floors and seed stores. And one of our projects, that is the regional rice value, is very, very focused on that. And also, we have introduced the use of mechanized harvesters, that is combined harvesters. And these harvesters have reduced the time, they are more efficient, and also they have minimized post-harvest loss. And also part of the management of harvest and post-harvest loss is the introduction of tracers. Roots is in the process of training our local individuals here to be able to make these tracers locally, and then they will be widely available to all our farmers. And this, we think, is going to help us a lot in managing the post-harvest loss. But of course, vegetables are the greatest victims of post-harvest loss. And that is why the ministry has introduced cold storage facilities. And this, we have them in very strategic locations and mainly in market sites. And these are being built by our Roots project. And what they will do is the women can go and sell their vegetables. When they have leftovers, they can come and store it right there and be able to sell it the next day without having to go through any loss. But also, one of the strategies we have, now we are building cool containers. That is a container that is a freezer inside the gardens itself. So instead of even harvesting, get into the market and you have something left over, have to store in the market, they only harvest, keep in the cool container, carry only what they think is marketable for the day, so that they do not have to carry excess load, and the struggle for the women selling the vegetables is minimized. So both seed stores and cool containers and cold stores and many like tracers and harvesters, these are things we think are going to help minimize the 30 to 35% loss we are experiencing in harvest and post-harvest. These are all part of our strategy to the 2030 rice self-sufficiency. The ministry is not in isolation from any other agency as far as challenges are concerned. And Gambia, like many countries, climate change is our first challenge. Agriculture is the biggest victim in terms of climate change, because if you look at the level of salt intrusion in this country, it's very great. 20, 50 years ago, there was salt intrusion barely only in the Combos and parts of West Coast. Today, it has consumed the entire LRR and up to now the lower part of CRR. So climate change, occasionally we've had floods, we've had droughts, bushfires. These are all issues related to climate change, and they have impact for agriculture. The other challenge that we have identified as a ministry is capacity building. You know, capacity, when you say This is a country that currently is struggling to get enough agricultural engineers. This is a country that probably has only 4 out of 4 veterinary doctors in the public service, when we probably need a lot more. But even the 4 are doing their best, because just like earlier I mentioned, 95% of all our small ruminants were vaccinated in 2023. So I think the ministry is struggling in terms of veterinary doctors, but of course it has done well. And then financing. Finance is a challenge, not only to the Ministry of Agriculture, but the Ministry of Finance have done very well in terms of trying to allocate what is available so that everybody fits in. But we must thank our development partners at this point. They've been very supportive of the ministry financially, but that's an area that we need a lot more reinforcement. And again, apart from finance and funding, is the limited involvement of youth and the private sector in agriculture. And this is an area where we really want the young people of this country to understand that people come from other countries, come into this country and are establishing farms and are becoming millionaires. There's a farm somewhere in West Coast, I don't want to mention, they just harvested 8,000 metric tons of onions. And these are from other countries. So the Gambian youth, the young people of this country, should see agriculture as a business, see agriculture as an enterprise. And we are calling on them to understand that you can be a farmer and drive a Range Rover. You can be a doctor and be a farmer. You can be a lawyer and be a farmer. You can be on TV and still be a farmer. So we are calling on the youth and the private sector to come into agriculture. Let them come and meet our technicians. We will show them the way, and we will be along the way with them to success, because there's everything, X of everything except X farmer. So we would definitely call on the youth and the private sector into agriculture. The young people and the private sector coming into agriculture, the potentials are great. Look, $20 million investment in agriculture can earn you a farm and an income of almost 20 million annually. Instead of spending 20 million to build a 3-floor story building and rent it out, it will take you 20 years to recoup your capital, not to talk of investment. So if you are an elderly 50-year-old, 60-year-old, you won't be there when the profit starts to come. The reality is, if you spend that 20 million on a farm, it will take you 12 months or 24 months to start getting the profit. And this profit will be as great as the income, that the amount you spend as capital. So for example, I know a farm that has just invested no more than 20 million in onion production in this country. This farm in 2024 has harvested in the excess of $100 million. There are trucks coming from Senegal and Guinea-Bissau buying these onions. And this is right here in the West Coast region. So the Gambian youth, the private sector, the fastest, most reliable, and the most satisfying income, for that matter, the most satisfying income is from agriculture.